we're dreaming of reaching our first 1,000 subscribers. Subscribe and be the first to discover new stories every day. I woke up to the usual hum of the coffee maker, the faint clink of dishes in the kitchen, and the weight of routine settling into my bones. My neck was stiff from another night on the couch, third time this week. I stretched, feeling the dull ache in my shoulders, and shuffled toward the kitchen. Anna was there, leaning against the counter, scrolling through her phone. Her blonde hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she wore that oversized sweatshirt she always threw on when she didn't care to impress. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to snap. I leaned in to kiss her cheek, same as every morning before I headed to work. Just a quick habit, nothing deep. But she flinched, pulling back just enough to make it clear it wasn't an accident. Her eyes stayed glued to her phone, but her voice came out flat, almost bored. You ever think maybe I just don't want to be kissed? My hand froze on the counter, fingers curling slightly as a pulse of heat shot through my chest. My jaw tightened, and I straightened up, staring at her. She didn't even glance up, just kept scrolling like she hadn't just dropped a grenade. I let out a slow breath, keeping my voice steady but sharp. If you don't want to be kissed, Anna, just say it. But don't expect me to keep playing the part, paying the mortgage, fixing your messes, sitting through your family dinners like some perfect husband. You want out of this? Fine. But it cuts both ways. Her head snapped up, eyes narrowing, her fingers twitching around her phone. She slammed the cabinet door shut, the bang echoing in the quiet kitchen. You're overreacting, she muttered, her tone dripping with dismissal, a nervous edge creeping into her voice. Always so dramatic. She grabbed her phone and stormed out to the balcony, leaving me standing there, the air still crackling. I didn't follow her. My pulse was racing, my jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached, but I forced myself to stay calm, pouring coffee into my mug with deliberate slowness. Inside, my mind was already turning. This wasn't just about a kiss. It was the way she said it, cold, like she was testing me, daring me to push back. I wasn't going to beg for her affection or chase her approval. If she wanted to play games, I'd play smarter. 2 days later, we were at her sister's place for dinner. The house was packed. Her sister, her husband, a couple of their friends, and some guy from Anna's work who kept hovering too close to her. The dining room smelled of roasted chicken and lemon, and the table was cluttered with mismatched plates and half-empty glasses of soda. Anna was in her element, laughing too loudly, tossing her hair, playing the charming wife. I sat across from her, sipping my drink, watching her work the room, my fingers tapping lightly against the glass. As I walked in with a bottle of sparkling water to add to the spread, Anna caught my eye and smiled, but it wasn't for me. It was for them. This is my husband, she said, her voice syrupy, her fingers brushing her hair back. He's so serious. A few chuckles rippled around the table, and her coworker smirked, like he was in on some joke. I set the bottle down, my fingers tightening briefly around the neck, my chest tightening with a slow burn. I leaned back in my chair, my voice calm, but with an edge that cut through the chatter. Yeah, serious enough to wonder if I'm even married sometimes. Kissing's off the table, apparently. Not sure what else is outside the contract. The room went dead silent. Anna's smile froze, her eyes darting to me, then away, her fingers fidgeting with her napkin. Her sister coughed awkwardly, and the coworker shifted in his seat, suddenly fascinated by his plate. Anna's cheeks flushed, but she forced a laugh, high and brittle, her voice trembling slightly. Oh, come on, don't be like that, she said, trying to brush it off. It was a joke. Was it? I said, raising an eyebrow, my tone light but pointed. Because I'm pretty sure you meant it. I took a slow sip of my drink, letting the silence stretch, my gaze steady on her. Her sister changed the subject, but Anna barely spoke for the rest of the night, her fingers twisting her napkin into knots. In the car on the way home, she stared out the window, her arms crossed, her breathing uneven. My hands gripped the steering wheel, the leather creaking under my fingers, the tension in my shoulders spreading like a slow fire. You didn't have to say that in front of everyone, she finally said, her voice low, accusing, with a slight quiver. I kept my eyes on the road, my voice even but cold. You didn't have to call me out like I'm your personal punching bag. If you've got a problem, say it to my face. Don't dress it up for an audience. She huffed, turning away, her fingers digging into her arms. You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? I shot back, glancing at her, my jaw tight. Because it feels like you're testing me, Anna. And I'm not here to fail your little quizzes. She didn't respond, just stared out into the dark, her breath catching slightly. My heart was pounding, but I kept my face neutral. This wasn't about one dinner or one comment. It was a pattern, her pulling away, throwing jabs, expecting me to just take it. I wasn't going to. A few days later, Anna's mother, Linda, showed up unannounced. I was in the living room, sorting through work emails on my laptop when the doorbell rang. Anna let her in, and I could hear the hushed urgency in their voices from the kitchen. Linda walked in, her face pinched with concern, her purse clutched tightly. "Can we talk?" she said, her tone overly gentle, like she was handling a fragile child. I closed my laptop, leaning back on the couch, my arms crossed. "Sure, Linda. What's on your mind?" My voice was calm, but my shoulders were tense, my jaw already tightening. She sat down, smoothing her skirt, her eyes flicking nervously to Anna, who hovered in the doorway, biting her lip. I'm worried about you too," Linda said, her voice soft but pointed. "Anna says things have been tense. I know marriage is hard, but you're both so good together. Maybe you could try a little harder to understand her." I let out a short laugh, sharp enough to make her flinch. My fingers tapped the armrest, my pulse steady but heavy. "Understand her?" "Linda, I've been understanding for months while she's been dodging me, snapping at me, acting like I'm the hired help. You want me to try harder? Tell your daughter to stop treating our marriage like a game she can win by pushing me away." Linda's mouth opened, then closed, her cheeks flushing. Anna's eyes widened, her fingers twisting together, her voice small. "That's not fair," she said, but it lacked conviction, her gaze dropping to the floor. "Not fair," I said, leaning forward, my voice low and cutting. "What's not fair is me carrying this marriage while you're out there rewriting the rules. If you've got advice, Linda, give it to her. I'm done playing defense." I stood up, grabbing my laptop, and walked out, leaving them both in stunned silence. My chest was tight, but my steps were firm. I wasn't here to coddle anyone's feelings. The next week was a slow unraveling. Anna started locking her phone, snapping, "Don't touch it," when I reached for it to check the time, her voice sharp, her fingers trembling slightly. She'd disappear into the bathroom for hours, claiming she was tired or needed space. One night, I found a bag from some boutique in her closet, a lacy set of lingerie still tagged, tucked under a pile of clothes. My stomach twisted, not out of jealousy, but from the sheer audacity of it. I held it up when she walked in, my voice calm but razor sharp, my jaw clenched tight. "This for me, or someone else?" Her eyes widened, then narrowed, her lips pursing, a nervous laugh escaping her. "It's just something I bought," she said, her tone defensive, dodging the question. "Why are you going through my stuff?" "I wasn't," I said, tossing the bag onto the bed, my pulse pounding in my ears. "It was right there. But you're acting like I caught you stealing. So what's the deal? You planning a show for someone? Because I'm not signing up for the audience." She rolled her eyes, snatching the bag, her hands shaking slightly. "You're paranoid," she said, her voice sharp, but I caught the flicker of panic in her eyes, the way her breath hitched. "It's not a big deal." "Then why lie about it?" I said, stepping closer, my voice low and steady, my fists clenching at my sides. "If it's nothing, just say where you got it. Easy. Or is it easier to keep playing me for a fool?" She froze, her mouth opening, then closing, her fingers digging into the bag. "I don't have to explain myself to you," she finally snapped, turning away, her shoulders stiff. I let out a short, bitter laugh, shaking my head. "You know what, Anna? If someone else is kissing you, that's your call. But don't expect me to stick around and cry about it. You want to play games? Play them with him." I turned and walked out, my heart pounding, my breathing uneven, but my steps deliberate. She wasn't just pulling away, she was rewriting the rules, expecting me to follow blindly. I wasn't going to. The next day, I decided to stop reacting and start acting. I'd had enough of her dodging and deflecting. That evening, I waited in the living room, my arms crossed, my jaw tight, as she walked in from another work thing, her heels clicking on the hardwood, her phone glowing in her hand. She froze when she saw me, her smile faltering, her fingers tightening around her phone. "Late again," I said, my voice calm but sharp, my eyes locked on hers. Work must be real demanding. Or is it something else keeping you out till midnight? She swallowed, her eyes darting away, her voice unsteady. I told you, it was a team dinner. Why are you making a big deal out of this? I stepped closer, my voice low, cutting through her excuse like a blade. Because you're lying, Anna. I called your office. No team dinner. Just you, vanishing for hours, coming back with that guilty look on your face. I nodded at her phone, my lips curling slightly. Who's on the other end of that? Because it sure as hell isn't me. Her face paled, her fingers trembling as she clutched her phone, her breath catching in her throat. You're spying on me now, she said, her voice rising, but it cracked, betraying her panic. Spying, I said, raising an eyebrow, my tone cold. No, Anna. I'm just done pretending I don't see what's right in front of me. You want to sneak around? Fine. But don't insult me by acting like I'm too stupid to notice. She opened her mouth, but no words came out, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I turned and walked to my office, my heart pounding, but my steps steady. For once, I wasn't reacting to her jabs. I was setting the terms, and she didn't know how to handle it. The next week, I was at the gym with Mike, my old college buddy who'd been through his own messy breakup. We were spotting each other on the bench press, the clank of weights filling the air. My arms burned as I pushed the bar up, my breath coming in sharp bursts, my shoulders knotted from days of tension. Mike leaned over, grinning. You look like you're trying to lift your whole marriage. I snorted, racking the bar, my chest heaving. Might as well. Feels like I'm carrying it solo. He raised an eyebrow, wiping sweat off his forehead. Trouble at home? I hesitated, then told him about the kiss, the dinner, the lingerie, the confrontation. My voice was steady, but my gut churned as I laid it out, my fists clenching at my sides. Mike listened, nodding, then let out a low whistle. Man, she's testing you, pushing to see how far you'll bend. I've seen it before. You don't set boundaries, she'll keep moving the line. I wiped my hands on my shorts, my jaw tight, my pulse heavy. I'm not bending. I'm done playing her games. Good, he said, his voice firm. You let her walk over you. She'll never respect you. Lay it out, calm, clear, no bullshit. She'll either step up or crash. His words stuck with me, like a light flicking on. I'd been reacting, countering her moves, but I needed to take control. Not by yelling or begging, but by drawing a line she couldn't cross. That night, I came home to find Anna in the kitchen, chopping vegetables with a little too much force, the knife hitting the cutting board with sharp thuds. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel my pulse quickening as I set my keys down, my shoulders stiff. She glanced up, her eyes cold, her fingers twitching slightly. You're late, she said, her voice clipped. Had a long day, I said, leaning against the counter, my tone neutral but my jaw tight. What's this? Trying to play wife again? She froze, the knife hovering over the cutting board, her breath catching. What's that supposed to mean? She said, her voice rising, sharp with irritation, her fingers gripping the knife handle. I crossed my arms, keeping my voice low but firm, my eyes locked on hers. It means you've been dodging me for weeks. No kisses, no answers, just attitude. Now you're chopping carrots like it's a performance. What's the play, Anna? Trying to guilt me into forgetting. Her face flushed, and she slammed the knife down, the sound sharp in the quiet kitchen, her hands trembling. You're impossible, she snapped, her voice loud, almost shaking, her eyes darting away. Everything's a fight with you. No, I said, stepping closer, my voice steady but hard, my fists clenching at my sides. You're the one picking fights. Throwing shade in front of your friends, hiding stuff, acting like I'm the problem. If you're done with this, just say it. I'm not here to beg. She laughed, but it was brittle, nervous, her fingers twisting together. You think you're so perfect, don't you? Always in control, always right. I raised an eyebrow, my lips curling slightly, my voice cold. Not perfect, just not stupid. You want to test me? Fine. But every time you push, I'm pushing back harder. Keep it up, and you'll be cooking for one. Her eyes widened, and for a second, I saw something flicker. Fear, maybe, or realization. But she turned away, muttering, whatever, and went back to chopping, her movements jerky, her breath uneven. My chest was tight, but I didn't move. I wasn't going to chase her or soften the blow. She needed to feel the weight of her own choices. A few nights later, Anna made a show of trying to fix things. I came home to find the dining table set with candles, a bottle of wine, and some elaborate pasta dish she'd clearly spent hours on. She was wearing a dress she hadn't touched in years, her hair down, her smile forced and brittle. "I thought we could have a nice night," she said, her voice overly bright, her fingers fidgeting with her wine glass. I stood in the doorway, my arms crossed, my jaw tight, my pulse steady but heavy. "What's this, Anna? Another performance?" I said, my voice calm but sharp, cutting through her act. Her smile faltered, her eyes flickering with panic, her fingers tightening around the glass. "I'm trying, okay," she said, her voice rising, a slight tremor in it. "I'm trying to make things better." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers, my voice low and cold. "You're not trying to make things better. You're trying to save face. You didn't want to be my wife when it mattered, when you were dodging me, lying to me, pushing me away. Now you're scared because I'm not chasing you anymore? Too late." Her face crumpled, her breath catching in her throat, her hands shaking as she set the glass down. "Why are you doing this?" she said, her voice small, pleading. "I'm trying to fix it." I leaned forward, my voice steady, my tone cutting. "You don't get to decide that now. You had your chance, Anna. You chose to test me, to see how far you could push. You really don't understand? Or is it just easier to pretend you don't?" I turned and walked to my office, my steps deliberate, leaving her standing there, her eyes glistening with tears she didn't deserve to shed. The next week, things got worse. She started staying out late, claiming work drinks or a girls' night, her phone glued to her hand, her voice sharp if I even looked at it. One night, I was working late in my home office, the glow of my laptop the only light in the room. My eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets, my shoulders knotted from stress, my jaw tight. I heard the front door open, then Anna's heels clicking on the hardwood. She didn't come to check on me, just went straight to the bedroom. I leaned back in my chair, my fingers tapping the desk, my pulse steady but heavy. I got up, walked to the bedroom, and found her sitting on the bed, texting furiously, her fingers moving fast, her breath uneven. "Long night," I said, my voice calm but laced with sarcasm, my arms crossed in the doorway. She didn't look up, her shoulders stiffening. "Yeah, work stuff," she said, her tone flat, dismissive, her fingers pausing briefly. I leaned against the doorframe, my voice slow, deliberate. "Work stuff?" I repeated, my tone sharp. "That why you're smiling at your phone like it's your new best friend?" Her head snapped up, her eyes flashing, her voice sharp, almost shrill. "What's your problem?" she said, her fingers trembling as she clutched her phone. "You don't trust me now?" I let out a short laugh, shaking my head, my jaw clenching. "Trust? Anna, you're acting like someone with something to hide. Locked phone, late nights, new clothes you don't explain. You want trust? Start acting trustworthy." She stood up, her face red, her voice rising, her hands shaking. "You're suffocating me. I can't even breathe without you analyzing everything." I stepped closer, my voice low, cutting, my fists clenched at my sides. "Suffocating? I'm not the one sneaking around, dodging questions. You want space? Take all you want. But don't expect me to sit here and play dumb while you rewrite the rules." She opened her mouth, then closed it, her hands shaking, her eyes darting away. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she said, but her voice was weaker now, less sure, her throat tight. "Am I?" I said, my tone cold, unyielding. "Because it looks like you're checking out of this marriage. And if you are, I'm not sticking around to watch." I walked out, my heart pounding but my steps steady. I wasn't going to beg or yell. I was done playing her game. The next morning, I made a call. My hands were steady as I dialed the lawyer, my voice calm as I laid out what I needed. I didn't want a scene, didn't want to drag this out. I withdrew half our savings, moved my important documents to a safe deposit box, and started the paperwork. My chest felt tight, but my mind was clear. This wasn't about revenge, it was about self-respect. I wasn't going to let her keep pushing until I broke. I kept living at home, keeping my routine. I'd come back from work, eat whatever was on the counter, and go to my office to work. Anna didn't notice the shift. She was too busy laughing into her phone, binge-watching shows, acting like everything was fine. I didn't say a word. Let her think she was winning. When the court notice arrived, I was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, my hands steady around the mug. Anna opened the envelope, her hands shaking as she read it, her breath catching in her throat. The mug slipped from her fingers, hitting the counter with a dull thud. She looked at me, her eyes wide, her voice trembling. "What is this?" she said, holding up the papers, her fingers twitching. I set my mug down, my voice calm, almost bored. "You know what it is." She stepped closer, her voice rising, desperate, her eyes glistening. "This is crazy. We're just going through a rough patch. We can fix this." I leaned back, crossing my arms, my eyes locked on hers, my jaw tight. "A rough patch? Anna, you've been checking out for months. No kisses, no answers, just games. You killed this marriage, not with one thing, but with every time you chose to push me away. And now you're scared because I'm not chasing you anymore? You don't get to rewrite the ending." Her face crumpled, and she sat down, her hands twisting together, her voice small, almost childlike. "I didn't mean it," she said, her throat tight. "I was just stressed. We can work on it." I shook my head, my voice steady, cold. "You don't get to decide that now. You had your chance. You chose to test me, to see how far you could push. You really don't understand? Or is it just easier to pretend you don't?" I turned and walked out, my steps deliberate, leaving her sitting there, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The next few weeks were a blur of her trying to rewind time. She started cooking elaborate dinners, lighting candles, suggesting movie nights under a blanket. It was pathetic, like she was auditioning for a role she'd already lost. I'd come home, see the spread on the table, and feel nothing but pity. "Nice try," I'd say, my voice flat, grabbing a plate and eating in silence before heading to my office. One night, she cornered me in the living room, her eyes red, her voice shaking, her fingers twisting together. "Why are you doing this?" she said, her tone pleading, her breath uneven. "I'm trying, okay? I'm trying to make it right." I looked at her, my jaw tight, my voice low and hard. "You're not trying to make it right. You're trying to save face. You didn't want to be my wife when it mattered. Now you just don't want to be the one who got left." "Too late, Anna." Her face froze, and she turned away, her shoulders shaking, her breath catching in her throat. I walked past her, my steps deliberate, my heart steady. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. The divorce went through quickly. We sold the house, split everything down the middle. I signed the papers, shook the lawyer's hand, and walked out without looking back. My hands were steady, my breathing even. I'd said everything I needed to say. A year later, I was in a new apartment, everything mine, no compromises. The place was small but clean, with a view of the city I'd never noticed when I was too busy fighting her battles. I'd started running again, hitting the gym with Mike, focusing on my work. Life was quiet, simple, and mine. One day, I ran into Anna at a coffee shop. She was sitting alone, her hair shorter, her face tired, her fingers fidgeting with her cup. She looked up, her eyes widening, and stood up, her voice soft, hesitant. "Hey, you look good." I nodded, my voice neutral, my arms crossed. "Thanks." She fidgeted with her cup, her voice trembling, her eyes glistening. "I messed up, okay? I didn't realize what I had. I'm sorry." I looked at her, my face calm, my voice steady, my jaw tight. "You didn't mess up, Anna. You chose. And I chose too. I'm not here to fix your regrets. You don't miss me. You miss being able to control me." I turned and walked out, the bell above the door chiming softly behind me. My steps were light, my chest open. I didn't need her approval, her apologies, or her games. I had myself, and that was enough.